We are Tailgate Talk. Welcome into the show. I am Matt Thomas. With me, we've got Kyle Mulwiney, Trent Williams, Kyle Schumann. We're going to come to you with a very abbreviated episode because we want to get this done before the home run derby starts. I'm sorry, Phillies Astros game 4. So, Coco, you were actually at game 3. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it quickly before we get going?
Atmosphere absolutely fantastic. When Bryce Harper hit that first inning 2-run home run, place absolutely shaking. Derek and I, my brother and I were talking about how we've been to obviously plenty of whiteout games and everything like that, but like that, even though there's only like 45,000 people in Citizens Bank Park, it was just as loud as in Beaver Stadium. Like it was that crazy. It was a great game to be at because it was just a clean old ass kicking from start to finish, 7-0 Phillies, and I think they're gonna pull it off, and I think they're gonna finish off in the next 2 games here. And Trent's gonna win.
I hope
how much
so.
money? Trent, what's your payout if the Phillies win?
Whoa. We don't disclose numbers on this.
I mean, a cool grand. I put $30 on the Phillies pretty much to win $1,000. I only hedged $100 after they won game 1, so $100, so $900 payout.
All right.
So I think Kyle, like on that note, baseball is just like the instant reaction. You don't get that in other sports like that because like football, when you even a big play, like it's a little bit more drawn out of a crowd reaction because like till the play develops, you see a receiver open, the ball's in the air. Where baseball, it's like the crack of the bat. It's like insane because as soon as you hit it, you knew it was gone. So like every single person is screaming at the top of their lungs at the exact same time, and like you don't get that too often in football.
And there's a lot of parallels. Phillies won 7-0. Eagles are 7-0. So it's a good day to be a Phillies, Philadelphia Phillies fan. Yeah,
I'm surprised that you could yell that much with that scarf I saw on the pictures of the game last night. It looked a little tight around your neck, but it's good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. All right. Before we get into Indiana, any thoughts on the initial college football playoff rankings coming in at 15?
I thought you were going to ask about the quarterback debate.
No, we went over that already.
We're not opinionated on that. So
yeah,
no,
that was a dry
debate.
We'll let that one play out.
I think we came in where I thought we would. I don't know about you guys. Some other teams are a little. You always have to wonder their logic, but I thought we were in a good place.
But yeah, I'm not hating our. I'm saying I'm not hating our ranking. I think it's fair. Good spot for us. Fair ranking.
Must be nice to be the SEC, be LSU, get blown out by Tennessee at home, and still end up in the top 10. But no, I mean it goes back to what we said the other day. How like this season isn't over. We more or less control our own destiny. You know, there's going to be some chaos in front of us, and sets us up nice for a New Year's 6 bid. So just got to take care of business.
The thing that like. As long as you have a college football playoff committee, it's never going to be perfect because it's not like the NFL where it's like a definitive structure. It's opinion no matter how you do it. But the way that they're just so inconsistent. The logic they'll use one year doesn't apply to the next year. The logic for one team then doesn't apply for the next team. So like you can look at it and like where Clemson's ranked versus TCU. The logic, like if you're going to use the logic to put Clemson where they're at, then how can you have TCU where they are at? And that's what's like I think is frustrating about the college football playoff committee.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. For the first couple of weeks, like it's just about generating TV ratings. Like, you know, oh, now you've got Alabama, LSU top 10 on Saturday night. Like, oh, you know, so
it'll all work itself out in the end. Like you can put Ohio State and Michigan 1 and 2 because it's like it's easy to do that because you know one of them is going to
Hi Copper.
It's Copper trying to get in
for sure.
Copper.
There he is.
Finally, it's about time.
Had to call it out so everyone didn't think that the apartment's haunted.
Yeah, but I wasn't the only one seeing that. I was like, oh, there goes our pod mate right there. He's gonna get killed in his apartment.
Whenever I have a meeting, if I'm working from home, as soon as I'm on a meeting and he hears me talking to someone, he bursts through the door. Same thing. He thinks I'm talking to someone in here, so.
Yeah, well, I don't even bring the dogs downstairs now. After the first couple episodes, we learned the hard way with squeak toys and barking, and so no, they stay upstairs. I can hear them going nuts upstairs. So, anywho, shall we?
real quick before we get into Indiana, can I read you guys the again? I don't want to rehash the debate or anything like that. I'll just say one quote. I'll get you guys' opinion on it. So I want to hear from. So Tyler Donahue was interviewing Brenton Strange, was talking about the quarterbacks, and he asked about Drew Allar and his development so far. And Brenton Strange said today, having Drew here in the spring with us was really good to get him up to pace. I think he's picked up on some of the stuff that Sean does preparing wise. So whoever coach decides to throw in, I think they'll be ready, and I think they'll do a great job. So from what that sounds like, Brenton Strange.
No, don't even try to interpret that as anything but exactly what he is. He's not going to pick a side, Kyle. He's a player.
Okay.
He's not going to sit there and pick a side. He's going to say, whoever the coach puts in, I'm ready. I'm ready to catch the ball.
He says whoever they throw in will do a great job.
You know, it's funny because it sounds
what's
exactly.
He going to say? Drew Allar sucks, but or vice versa. Clifford sucks. No, he's a teammate on the. Whoever coach thinks is the best player, I'm ready to play with. Done.
Whoever he throws in will do a great job. So.
It's funny because it sounds exactly like what James Franklin said yesterday. It's almost like they tell them what to say. It's almost like
would you rather him say Drew Allar would not do a good job, but Clifford would, or Clifford would not do a job? Like in what world would he ever say that? Use some common sense.
Yeah, the James Franklin one's a little more surprising, but it's still James Franklin-esque. Like that's kind of how he is all the time about.
I'm also surprised that Franklin still hasn't doubled down on Sean Clifford yet either.
Franklin's always like that with things, though. He kind of keeps this mysteriousness about him, and with things.
Every team does. Yeah, it's a strategic advantage. Why are they going to tell you? Why are they going to tell you?
Yeah.
Even if they know, like, we're not playing Drew at all, like, even if it's a blowout, we're not playing him. Like, why would you say that? Like, it's not going to give you any sort of advantage against the opponent.
It is the least confrontational thing for any coach to say is, I'm going to put the best player out in the field, which is what he said. Like, you can't be any less confrontational than that.
Yeah. I'm not surprised that Franklin said it entirely, maybe a little surprised, but it's still his character to kind of be that way. And I guess, like you guys are saying, most coaches, but with Strange too, it's like, what's he going to do? Go out there and say, yeah, Clifford shouldn't play anymore. And then Clifford does start. And then he's not, Strange isn't going to get the ball thrown to him.
The fact that Kyle tried to
I just said that just to say
the fact that he's trying to interpret that to support his argument.
I think he's got a point. If you cover up every other letter and then you line them up, you actually do. You get Drew is gonna play. So
yeah, I think Kyle was just trying to. Kyle was trying to win. And again, because he knows
to end this conversation, we've had it before. If Drew Allar comes out and plays this weekend, it's not. I don't have to bend down. So Kyle, you were right, because I didn't ask for Drew Allar to play or not play. I asked for one thing: put the better quarterback on the field. If it's Drew Allar, let's go. I'm all in.
So 1 week makes a huge difference between Drew Allar being the better quarterback versus Sean Clifford. Is that what you're saying? Like, if
at some point, like the progression has, no matter what you do, at some point in time, it has to get to that point, right?
If it comes
there
to
has
fruition,
to be a point where a transition takes place. So you could always say that.
So
I would look at it and say, you could look at it and say,
I'm just saying, I want the transition. I want the transition to be. I want the transition to be now. That's all I've been arguing. I want the transition to be now.
Well, you know what they say.
We're not going in circles. We're not going in circles.
Come on,
I want the better quarterback to play. What you fail to realize, Kyle, is I don't have a side. I'm not in favor of Allar or Clifford. You are in favor of Allar. I'm not. I'm not in favor of him or against him. If Drew Allar plays this weekend, I will be just as happy because, in my opinion, Franklin feels that he's the best opportunity to win, which is all I want.
Okay. All right. We are closing it there.
So yep. I hear some Matt stats coming.
Hey, so do you guys hear that quote? Let me read a quote here that Parker Washington said about the quarterbacks this week. I have no alternate agenda by reading this quote. I just want to read it and get your guys' opinion. But then I'm going to tell you how I interpret it, even though it's very false. I don't have a Parker Washington quote.
Oh man. See, that's what I was waiting for. I thought you got when he was at Raising Cane's,
Yeah.
All right. Let me clear my voice because I think I'm going to be doing most of the talking because no one else knows that much about Indiana. They didn't prepare.
Great
They're
state.
watching they're watching the
suck.
Phillies game last night. So
They suck.
all right.
That's all you
How
need
about
to
them
know.
fightings?
All right. Indiana, 3-5. Wins against Illinois. How did that happen? Idaho, Western Kentucky, losses against Cincinnati, Nebraska, Michigan, Maryland, Rutgers. Tom Allen is 1-5 against Penn State in his 6 years at Indiana, and they're not ranked in any of the major polls, 78th in Football Power Index. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
no,
So speaking of Power Index, we are number 10 in the Power Index right now, I think.
are we? I thought when I looked, I think we were like around 12.
Well, it depends. I guess I was looking at ESPN's Power Index. I guess it depends on what Power Index
what are we the
you're
Josh
looking at.
What are we the JP poll? That's more important.
We were 14.
In what? Power Index or JP poll?
No, in the JP poll.
Okay.
I'm getting the Power Index. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
By the way, just like ESPN site. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that, but they're not that like they don't really make it that navigable.
No, it's not. It's a pain to try to navigate
ESPN has us at
for like
10.
all the stats and details.
ESPN has us at 10.
Yeah, so I thought we were. So I found that interesting that if you look at the Power Index, but we were talking about like LSU. I think they're ranked above us yet in ESPN's Power Index. So it is interesting looking at Power Index versus the College Football Playoff Committee. But yeah, that being said, I mean, Indiana just barely cracks the top 80. There's only like 130 FBS teams or something like that, 131. Yeah. So they're definitely not a very good football team. I think we've seen a little bit of Indiana play this year. Just random weekends where they've been on, and there's just nothing shiny about them.
Yeah, the stats kind of play that out too. Looking at the offensive side of the ball for Indiana, they don't necessarily do anything great. 128th in rushing yards per game. Like you said, there's only 130 teams in the country, 135 maybe FBS, so not good. They're in the mid 40s of passing yards per game, but 120th in passing efficiency. So they're passing the ball a lot, and they're not.
Sounds like us last year. Sounds like us last year.
I mean, honestly, yeah. So Connor Bazelak, their starting quarterback for now, 76% of his completions come 9 yards or shorter, but he's still, 8 of his 9 turnovers are on balls across the middle and short. He has, more turnover worthy plays and big time plays. So they're turning the ball over, and it's not because they're aggressive. It just, it's kind of sloppy. I was listening to a podcast with a beat writer, I think from the Indianapolis Morning Star right before we came on here. And he was basically just like, they run tempo, they're spread, RPO, and they don't necessarily have the personnel for it this year. So it is what it is. The news this week was their leading wide receiver, Cam Camper, is out for the year with an ACL injury. I think it was an ACL. So yeah, you lose your starting receiver. Their backup running back has the most receiving touchdowns on the team. Like it's not a very great situation. Their offensive line has not been playing that great. They're susceptible to pressure. Like, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Remember when the Tom Allen hype, when it was like, it was insane. Like he was one of the best coaches in the country. Like every player, why wouldn't any recruit want to play for him? Like it was just that feel good story after every game. You seen them in the locker room, and now it's just like a train wreck.
Yeah, I mean, like he is a player's coach, like the LEO, like what is it? Love everyone, whatever it stands for. Like, but yeah, it's not good. That 2020 Indiana team is going to be a little wrapped in a mystery.
Yeah, he's a little like, I mean, sort of like a PJ Fleck. He's very gimmicky. He has all the sayings and all that stuff with him. I like Tom Allen, but I just find it like the downturn that he has taken personally. Like, I mean, where his stock was versus where it is now, very different spots.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I know we're not going to do it. Like, I would love to just see us play man. Our secondary has shown that we can hang with elite talent after last week. Like, just lock them down and just bring the house. But I know we're going to come out with our typical zone base, and like it should be good enough. Like, they don't do anything special. Yeah. But
are you guys nervous at all for how we're going to come out after the loss?
See, I would be more nervous if it wasn't Indiana.
Yeah. I'm not saying lose,
if
but
it
I mean,
was,
do you think we're going to come out pretty
Yeah.
yeah,
lackluster?
I could see us coming out
Okay.
like that. Maybe not quite as bad as a bye week coming out like we do after a bye week.
We can't do any worse than coming after a bye week.
What about
Yeah.
like a Central Michigan almost after the Auburn?
So I have an interesting question, and this is not to bring up the quarterback debate at all, but I'm serious about this.
Okay.
Just in a hypothetical, if Drew Allar starts this Saturday and we do get a sizable lead and start blowing Indiana out, do you then bring Sean Clifford in for garbage time, or do you then have to turn the page completely and go to like a Bo or a Vayu and one of those guys? Like, if you're benching Clifford and saying his tenure's over, I'd imagine in garbage time you wouldn't bring him in.
I don't think you bring him in that at that
But
point.
at the same time, I think you want to keep a competent backup fresh. Like, I think that's a really interesting thing that we haven't considered in all of this.
Yeah. I agree.
That being said, if like Allar goes out for injury and it's a tight game, in that case, you are bringing Clifford back in. Like, you're not going to bring a third string quarterback in. So to me, but the optics of bringing Clifford in for garbage time are just going to be really bad. So it's just a really interesting wrinkle to think about.
So would be really bad. Don't give Coco any more fuel to the fodder. He thinks that you're agreeing with him now. So
I know we had a question before about Clifford's stock in the draft. I mean, do you think there's any chance he gets drafted at all? Like even in a late round, like 6th, 7th round? Because what I'm thinking is like, what's Clifford's stance if Drew
in the
goes
XFL
in,
or
no? Like seriously, like so, like what if Drew goes into Trent's point, and then like is Clifford going to be stubborn to say, oh, I'm not going in at all? Or does he see some sort of value saying, okay, if I get this chance again, maybe I still have an ability to move up in the draft? Or get drafted at all, I should say.
I don't think he'll get drafted. I think there's a chance I think there's a chance he still signs as like a unrestricted free agent and makes like a practice squad.
Like a throwing arm. I could still see him being a late round pick. I mean, he needs some work, but
he's 4 years of tape. Like 4 more games is not going to change that. It's all going to come down to personal workouts and that kind of stuff. So, all right, I'm getting us off the quarterback debate. We're not going back. So, but
that wasn't a debate. That was
I'm not getting.
Just to Trent's point, as they know, I'll be happy if Drew started. If we did get to that point, but going back to Indiana, do you guys think that Tom Allen is working himself onto the hot seat now after that magical 2020 run? Because they went 2-10 last year and they're 3-5 now. Do you think that like he's not like officially getting the hot seat? Like
Indiana's hot seat is a little different than Penn State's hot seat or another program's hot seat. Yeah. So I don't think he's quite on the hot seat at a school like Indiana quite yet.
Yeah, I mean it's Indiana. It's you gotta kind of know where you are. Like
it's like Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. It's the same logic. I agree with you. It's the same logic. Like I don't think they're gonna do much. Those two schools, you can't really do much better than what you have.
And it's a different dynamic. Sorry, Winnie. It's a different dynamic than some of these Big Ten West schools where they're trying to position themselves for a change now before the conference realigns and they get rid of divisions. Like Indiana, getting out of the East is only going to be a benefit for them more than likely. So yeah, I don't think that's a concern.
The only thing to add to that is I think they need to kind of figure out a direction they want to go. Where at least with like Penn State, if something were, to go past Franklin, to Trent's point, he always says like, who are you going to go to? At least, there's a kind of idea, I think, a direction that I think they would want to go. I mean, they have a lot of the foundation still there where Indiana, like Matt, like you were even mentioning with some of these stats, they just seem like they're in shambles across the board. So it's kind of hard to go from there.
Yeah. So I do want to circle back to your comment about Indiana in general, but that's my third key. So I'm going to keep it on track, go with the defense, and then we can circle back to that because we're going to try to keep it short today. We're at 18 minutes. We're going for 30. So again, their defense doesn't do anything really well. Like, yards per game, around 100, passing yards a game, around 100. Their strength is their rushing defense, and it ranks 83rd. They don't necessarily cover that well. They don't necessarily tackle that well. They don't necessarily have a good pass rush. So, we were so pass heavy last week as we had to be. I would imagine that we're going to try to restore some balance this week. Like I imagine we're going to try to run it down their throat a little bit. It's interesting though, because I think it would set up just, like I said, they're a stronger, and air quotes if you're listening on audio, rushing team. you would think that it would set up to kind of set up the run by the pass, but that's not what's going to happen. We know we're going to come out and hand the ball off 3 times, and we're probably going to go 3-and-out the first series, and everyone's going to be like, "What the hell's going on?" So yeah. But it should be one of those games where over time you just kind of wear them down.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, at this point in the season, that like in terms of play calling, though, like you don't have to hide anything at this point, right? I mean,
no.
Everything that is out there is out there. We're not saving something for Ohio State or saving something for Michigan. At this point, you just got to call your football game as you would call a football game. There's no sense of coming out and playing plain Jane football and trying to get away with not showing much against a team like Indiana. At this point, you just want to come out and clobber everyone if you can and walk out with a victory any way possible.
I agree. I mean, get as many points as you can and bring in young guys. I mean,
yep.
Yeah. And I do think it matters, like in terms of, I mean, if we can beat an Indiana versus absolutely clobber Indiana, it is going to help us with the college football playoff ranking. And that is in turn going to help us with our bowl selection, stuff like that. So I do think it still matters. Like, I mean, we are, as much as this season feels like it's over, I mean, we are still a top 15 team in the country and still have that chance to go 10-2. So there is so much to play for yet that, I mean, we got to treat every game as if we're, it is a 12-team playoff and we're, trying to get that spot in the playoffs. If we could run the score up.
Yeah.
If we were, I know with pretending to be a 12-team playoff, like, do we want to try to be like in the top 11? Because I know like in the future playoff rankings, like the highest ranked group of 5 teams gonna get in the playoff as well. So like, do we try? Out of teams, like do you like try and like finish like at like 11, 10? Like, where do you guys want to see us try and finish at the end of the year?
For this year,
I think as high as you can. I don't think you sit there like, let's not score here. If we don't score here, we'll be 11. If we score, we might be.
I actually want us to go backwards personally.
No, I think in the end, like, I think it's just chaos needs to happen. The rest of which it is, because obviously you have Tennessee, Georgia this week. You have other top 10 matchups that are gonna.
I mean, especially this year, looking at the way this season's like, in a lot of the other seasons, you could probably argue where a 12-team playoff wouldn't make things that interesting, with the way the like top 4 ended up shaking out at the end of the year. But this year, it doesn't seem like it's going to be. Like, you could look at a lot more than 4 teams that you could say have a really good argument for the college football playoff.
Yeah. I mean, potentially, like most years, a team with 2 losses right now, like positioned at 15, you could even honestly be thinking about trying to make an argument if something crazy happened getting into the playoff. Like now, unless you're LSU, of course, because everyone loves the SEC, and if they went out, they'll be in. But right now, the way everything stands, like there's not really a shot at that happening.
And that's what's crazy to me is like LSU being put at number 10 like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they went. I mean, I think the college football playoff can do some things because, like, well, they have Alabama this week, so it's like, all right, if they're gonna beat them, then our ranking was right. If not, they're just gonna be bounced back, and it's not really going to be relevant. So I think they can afford some things like that. Where, but I mean, you put a team at 10 like that, you don't have to win many games to get down near that top, that top 6 where you're on that bubble of a 14 playoff.
Yeah. And there's going to be folks arguing for, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and then LSU sneaking in too. It's just all 4 teams in the SEC playoffs. So, but yeah, and going back to Winnie's point about young guys, I think not bringing up Drew. We're not going to bring up Drew.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, especially on the line. Like there's still a bunch of guys banged out. I was just looking on Twitter before we started with the media open practice on Wednesday night. It doesn't look like Olu's out there, at least in the 15-minute open segment they have. So, and obviously we've talked about it. His draft stock is going through the roof right now. So I think it's going to be really key to get some of these younger guys, some experience on the line, get them ready to go for the next couple of years.
In general, would you say this has been one of our, knock on wood here, but one of our better seasons for injuries, in terms of really not losing anyone too insane and not too many like serious injuries to this point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, the line injuries are starting to add up now, and we could really see that on Saturday. But I mean, in general, yeah, I've been holding my breath for an injury at the running back room though, other than Kevon Lee, like after Kevon Lee.
I think
But like,
a lot more minor bumps and bruises than just major, like this guy tore his ACL, this guy,
Or out for a prolonged, like multiple
yeah, it
weeks.
doesn't
Yeah,
like
yes,
a
I
full
mean-
like season-ending injury, or like when you're watching a game and you're like, "Oh, that's bad." Like he's probably done. Like I feel like it's been a pretty good season as far as that goes, and one of the better ones in a long time as far as injuries go.
Yeah.
It's football. I mean, people are going to get hurt every game in some way, shape, or form, but avoiding those like career-ending. What's so funny?
People are gonna get hurt in some way, shape, or form.
It's
Yeah,
true.
usually it's us. Usually
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
us watching Penn State.
Yeah,
so.
the fans, Penn State fans. No, but yeah, I mean, hats off to the strength conditioning and any of the training staff, for all the stuff they did in the off season and even during the season.
Thank you for getting a shout out, Winnie. They
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Hey,
They
the credit where
they
credit's
appreciate
due.
They're
They-
really gonna appreciate that watching this.
it.
I hope at least two of them are watching right now.
At least two. Just that.
At least
Just
two.
At
just
least
two.
two.
He's
Yeah.
not happy
So-
with one.
Yeah, I need two.
Just so. All right. One last key I wanted to hit on. Going back to Winnie's point. Honestly, like out of the rest of the games that we have, I know we've talked about Maryland, we've talked about Michigan State and some of the challenges. If I was going to pick a potential upset, as bad as Indiana's been playing, this is the one I think I'd peg it on. I'm sure I've said this to one of you guys at some point over the last few years. It feels like we don't necessarily lose that much at Indiana. We've only lost twice, in the series history. They've both been out there, but it feels like Bloomington's always a place where we struggle. So I
know where that feeling's coming from, but I feel like Indiana's typically a little more mediocre of a team where they're not good, but they're not bad. And this year I feel like they're bad.
Yeah, I would hope so. I hope that's the case, but it always seems like for whatever reason we get some trouble. So I looked into it a little bit. In the last decade, we've played 5 games out there. The average point differential is Penn State plus 0.8. So a 20-point loss in 2013 doesn't help. I remember fall weddings suck, especially when your team's losing by 20 at Indiana. Was not fun. But then in the 3 games that we won, the average margin of victory is 8.3. There's only been one, 2-score game, a double-digit win, 14 points in 2016. So given everything we've talked about with coming off a loss, where's the mindset of this team? Are they all thinking about the Tailgate Talk poll? If Drew Alar is going to start, it concerns me a little bit. It concerns me. I hope that we're going to overcome it. I hope it's not going to be an issue, but just throwing that out there, food for thought. So, anything else? Any other thoughts that we have on what is a Hoosier anyway? I don't know what a Hoosier is.
I don't know. The only thing I think of with Indiana, I don't know why, but every when our blue band comes out of the tunnel, I always feel like we make the Indiana logo because 2 split out to the side, 1 come up the middle, and every time I'm like, it looks exactly like the Hoosier logo.
Every time I think about Indiana, I think about how if we were fans of Indiana, I'd have to get a pair of those striped pants, and I just don't think I could pull that look off. So,
Hoosier is the official name of the native inhabitants of Indiana.
Yeah, I know that, but what does it mean?
No, that's what it means. That's what a Hoosier is.
Ask Dr. Seuss.
Who's your daddy?
I thought he was going to say of the University of Indiana.
No, the people of Indiana are called Hoosiers. Like that's their.
No, we're with you, Kyle.
Oh, is that why that movie was named that?
Yeah, makes sense. Mike
Makes a lot of sense.
Tell us what a Hoosier is. So, all right, pick your plate. Let's go. How are we doing on time? Probably not good.
We're over.
You're the timekeeper.
Also, we have to address before we get into. We have to address the major controversy with pick your plate. That there's been some
muddling. Last episode, I was dyslexic updating the records, like the weekly records, but overall records are okay. Everything checks out.
I
don't
trust that.
Well, listen, when he's going to be happy with this week because he went 6-0 this week. He's
30.
No way that's possible, Coco. If you're gonna fudge the numbers, you got to at least make it.
Man, what happened to Fade
when he's leading the season
when he's
right
dyslexic, you were 0-6.
Probably.
He's 30-21-2.
Hey.
Matt went 3-3, 27-24-2. Trent went 2-4. He's 27, 24-2, and I went 4-2. So that brings me at 28, 23-2. And as a podcast, we are 112, 92, and 8. So
I don't believe any of those numbers this season is under protest.
I'll see what my Sunday looks like. I'll wake up early and start rewatching.
I know not all of these are sportsbook lines. Some of them are Coco lines, which, there may be some room for arbitrage in them, but that's still a really good aggregate record between all of us.
yeah.
Welcome.
If Winnie, isn't like cheap and actually put some money with his bets, he'd be up a lot this year so far. So you gotta trust yourself, Winnie.
I'd be curious if you took out the Kyle Schumann sportsbook bets, what the total
I know
was on
I think I've lost
bets.
more than those.
There was a two straight weeks where we all lost them.
Yeah, I lost a lot of those this year.
All right. Well, when you go back and do the audit, Coco, you can also take the Schumann sportsbook out of and see what the actual bets are.
All right. We'll get to our bets for this week here.
I'll work on the audit.
I don't know if I trust that one. All right. So we got Penn State, Indiana this week. We're favored by 14 going into this game. We'll do score predictions like we always do. Matt, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah. I have Penn State winning 35-20. Like I said, I don't think Indiana is a very good team. I'm hedging a little bit on the whole we don't play that well in Bloomington, sleepiness coming off of the last week. But I have us covering slightly. I'm
surprised, being that you said of everyone left on our schedule, you think this is the greatest chance for an upset that you'd have them covering.
I just that's how bad I think Indiana is. All of it, but
So if you think they're that bad, don't you think there's other teams on our schedule that would be a greater chance for an upset?
No, because it's a situation that goes into it. Maryland, if Maryland was on the road, then yeah, I could say that game. But it's at home, so I think that helps. Same thing with Michigan State. So and Rutgers is Rutgers. We don't care about the state of New Jersey in general. So that's what I mean by that. It's the matchup and the situation of the matchup.
Winnie, what do you got?
I got 42-10 PSU. I got them covering, Kyle.
All right. Trent?
Cover.
Thanks. Insightful.
Well, I also want to know what your okay, we're also gonna do the over under.
None of your picks are insightful either because they're never right. Not one of you have been right. So where's the insight on those?
This is the week.
Check the record.
You get 3 cracks at it each week, and
I'm going that we win 38-13, which means we cover, and also the over under for this game is 50. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, but I think with Matt's score prediction, we're going over. When you were going over, I'm going over. Trent?
I don't think Indiana's going to be able to put up points on us, and I think we'll score plenty to cover. I do think under.
Under?
I'm in the 40s.
Move on to some SEC action here. Big matchup this week. Tennessee at Georgia. Number 1 ranked Tennessee at Georgia. Georgia's favored by 8 at this game at home. Winnie, what do you think for this one?
I'm going to take Tennessee to cover. I've been sticking with Tennessee all season now, and they've been treating me well. So hopefully they keep it going. I mean, Matt's got his orange on over there, so I got a feeling he's got Tennessee.
I'm adopting Tennessee as my team.
He has a new camera angle this week. His back must be hurting him. Look, he's all lounged back.
Yeah, he's got his feet up, I think.
No, you missed the setup. Winnie and I went over this. I got a new setup down in the office. That's the thing about working from home every day.
Looks like a ceiling cam.
I did look into this.
It's like a spider cam, Trent.
The times, if you pick Tennessee to cover any of our picks this year, you won. So I'm going with Tennessee again in this.
Yeah. So that being said, I picked against Tennessee a lot this year. I keep saying I don't think they're back, and it just keeps biting me. And then I think that they got to have a letdown. Tennessee is legit, but I still think they have to have a letdown. I'm just sick of losing to Tennessee, so I'm riding with them. And if this is their letdown, then and they don't cover, then they don't cover. I'm picking them to cover.
Yeah, I mean,
Tennessee. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I'm picking them to cover. I mean, I kind of imagine that Georgia's going to win. Actually, I have to say Georgia's going to win. My boss's husband went to Georgia, so I have to say that. But I think Tennessee's Georgia's defense is good, but I think Tennessee's offense is also good. So I don't see Georgia blowing out Tennessee. I don't see them winning by 2 scores, which is basically what this line says. So I'd take Tennessee to cover 2.
All right, another SEC matchup here. Alabama's favored by 13 going to LSU. Trent, what do you got for this one?
I got to ride with Alabama here. I mean, we just did a lot of talking about LSU. I know LSU is looked better. They look pretty good against Ole Miss there, but that number 10 ranking just doesn't sit right with me yet for them. So for that reason, I'm riding with Alabama.
Winnie?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Alabama too. I feel like Saban's still pretty fired up with this season and how it's kind of shaken out. So I think he wants to kind of, bring their name back into the limelight a little bit. So I think Alabama will show up and kind of put LSU in their place.
That's my other thing too. One loss Nick Saban teams tend to turn it around. They tend to be dangerous.
Great coach. I can't imagine he's gonna let them be out of the conversation long.
Yeah, I think I seen of all of his national championships, only 2 of them were undefeated teams. So most of his teams have had a loss in the season.
I wish I had that problem.
Well, you just move to Alabama. They say Pennsylvania, Central Pennsylvania is the Alabama of the North, so just do it. I'm gonna go with LSU to cover. I think matchup wise, Alabama pretty much checks out at every spot, but it is at night. Everyone talks about Death Valley at night. It's probably one of the few environments people would probably rank above the whiteout in a night game. So I think it's going to give them the edge, similar to how the whiteout usually helps us against those top opponents, where it keeps it close, even if you're, outmatched a little bit. But ultimately, I think Alabama gets the win.
Should have made it a noon game. Yeah, isn't that when big games are supposed to be at noon?
Well, when LSU got blown out, it was 11 o'clock start out there. So
I have the same logic as Matt. I think it's just because it's a night game. It's because it's a night game. I think it's gonna just cover. I think they're gonna cover. They're not gonna win, but they're gonna cover. One more game here before Coco bet here. We got Michigan State and Illinois. Total point is 41.5. When you over under that,
I'm actually going with the over.
You're going over?
Flip a coin. I'll ride with Winnie. 6-0. I'm riding with Winnie.
You're gonna be pissed off when it's like, Winnie, I knew I shouldn't have ride with Winnie.
I've been bit in the ass by some of these low over under totals the last couple of weeks, so I'm going over. I'm going over as well. I mean, really, we should have made it odds of Michigan State landing a few punches in the tunnel. So that could happen too. But
yeah, I think they came out with 5 suspensions today from that brawl at Michigan.
4 or 5 more from the 4.
I was gonna say, they've been suspending him a little at a time, I guess, as they work through
all defensive guys.
Oh, I may just go under because it sounds like they'll have only half the team available.
Part of it.
Well,
after Harbaugh's
after
Harbaugh's snarky comments about James Franklin, and his comments, sort of made me feel good, actually.
Yeah,
screw it. I'm gonna go under for that game.
That was a Coco move in the tunnel by Michigan State. Just saying, you could totally see him doing that after a game. But
bashing someone with the helmet.
Yeah.
All right, we got one Coco book here. We got do we go over or under 200 rushing yards at Indiana? I think they've been averaging Matt, you said about 160 yards per game, I think. Rushing.
They allow 155.2 yards per game, 3.6 yards per carry. I'm gonna go under, just because that is typically their strength. If we try to get it going early, I think we might struggle a little bit. And bottom line is you can still be pretty balanced and be under 200 rushing yards. So I think I'm gonna go with under.
Winnie?
Yeah.
Or Trent, whoever wants to go.
I was gonna go with the under as well. Like I said, I don't think we put up a ton of points. I think we still beat them handily, but I just, with some of our offensive line issues we have going on right now, I think I'll stick with the under.
I'm going to take the over on this, actually. I think this is a week where we do a lot more running than passing, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's going to be close. I think we'll just miss a 200-yard mark. I think we'll get to like 185, 190. Just miss it. So I think we'll go under, but it's going to be pretty clse. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went over though.
So 198 just round up.
No.
Oh.
That's it for that. You want to do a last call here?
Please.
Yeah, let's do last call.
If you want, I could start it to get going, because you guys were actually talking about my my last call question about the Michigan brawl in the tunnel. I saw a lot about that. I'm sure you guys did too. And I didn't think we talked about it last podcast much. I know we were focused more on everything else. But do you guys think Michigan should change that, instead of both teams kind of being in the tunnels at the same time, that they should have more of just one team going first and then one team after?
They already do that
to a degree, yeah. But I mean, like, I feel like there's still
it's impossible to stop one-offs. Like, that was a one-off player coming. Like, you're never going to stop that. People are stuck behind for interviews. People after a game go over and see their families. Like, you're never going to be able to stop every player from getting in the tunnel at the exact same time. But I think what they will do is like sort of split the tunnel just via like security, temporary, like that type of stuff. Like, I think they're just going to man it a lot more. They're not going to reconstruct their stadium at this point. So it's just, I think they'll do some stuff with staffing.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to like build a whole new tunnel for the opposing team. I mean, they've been playing football at Michigan for, I'd say, for how many years now? And there have been a crazy amount of issues with, these. You don't see people getting physically assaulted. You see a lot like jawing back and forth with teams, but not like actual like assault. So they're not going to change that. I think, like Trent said, they're going to increase security and do some more items that way. But
yeah, I mean, they do need to take care of it though, because it's becoming a problem. Like the Michigan rivalry is just kind of like, it's ugly. Like, it's a very ugly rivalry, but you're going to continue to see it. Michigan, Ohio State with the jawing, you're going to continue to see it. With us, it's got to take care of it.
And I think that issue is a little unique because like you're not, even though how crazy the Ohio State Michigan rivalry is, Ohio State players aren't going to put themselves in that situation knowing what they have on the line, where it's like Michigan State just had nothing to lose.
Hey, it could be worse. We allegedly threw a peanut butter sandwich. At least we didn't bash him one with a football helmet. So,
well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, there was a small video that we posted on the YouTube channel, but I mean, this one just happened to, most of it got caught on video. So there's a lot of instances where I'm sure you don't get to see everything. I'm not saying everyone's getting bashed with helmets in the tunnel, but I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that happens in the tunnel that you don't typically see. So, who's next?
Go next.
I can go next, Coco. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as you guys probably saw, Brian Harson's out at Auburn. I feel like it should have been sooner than now, but where would you guys rank Auburn as a head coaching job? Like, top blank in the country?
I mean, I think it's definitely top 10 without a doubt. Like, that's not even in question. I think the question becomes like that top 5 mark. They do it's always tough because like they're so down right now. It's like recency bias comes into play, but I would think where they're at in the country and with the resources they have, I think it's top 5.
All right. Is the Auburn coaching job better? Like, is the job at Auburn better than Penn State, or are we still better than Auburn for a coaching job?
Auburn's a better coaching job.
I mean,
it's comparable, but I think with their proximity to Georgia, to Atlanta, is what gives Auburn the upper hand with recruiting and that area to entertain players and stuff like that, and also the SEC.
Yeah, they just don't have as many hands tied behind their back.
We are definitely biased, Kyle, but I will nationally, like, they would probably laugh at you for thinking that Auburn and Penn State are comparable for my coaching job. I'm serious. Like, that's the national perspective.
Well, they just paid how much to buy out Harsin? It was like a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, their last 2 coaches, they paid out a crazy amount of money. I mean, that's the type of money they have.
Yeah. The only thing that's holding them back from being a lock top 5 is just it's 2 things. It's the internal issues that they have, like just Auburn being Auburn, like that booster whole situation, like, it's just crazy. And who knows if that's going to get resolved anytime soon. You would hope that they would have seen that now play out twice and get that fixed. But and then the schedule right now is a problem. Having to play Alabama every year, having to play Florida every year, having to play Georgia. But I think that's gonna change with the realignment. So that issue should probably be resolved.
Well, but Matt, going off that, I feel like you're always gonna have the booster issue there because if you're a booster, you just pay to buy out two coaches, and you get so now I definitely want input on this next coach.
You're going to need someone like a Dion who's being thrown around, or Nick Saban, or Urban Meyer. Someone like a Dion is one of them. Like, he's not quite a Nick Saban. He hasn't proven himself. But like, Deion Sanders is not going to come in and be told what to do by boosters. And Kyle, you mentioned like you think it should have been sooner. Their struggle was not firing Brian Harsin. Their struggle was hiring an athletic director at Auburn. And I think that goes back to the whole booster situation. But like, the reason Harsin was fired was because they finally got their athletic director. They're like, the athletic director is not going to come in and fire a guy like Harsin, and an interim. Like, so once they have their athletic director, it's like, all right, see you later. Now he could come in with a clean slate and put into place who he wants to. Or theoretically, that's how it should work. At Auburn, maybe not.
We'll see.
All right, I'm gonna go. We're gonna speed this up a little bit because we are well over a half hour mark again.
No.
All right. So Tyler Donahue this week put out the stat that the 7 Penn State defensive linemen with the most snaps this year only have 3 total sacks on the year as a collective group. So my question is, given what we've talked about with the struggles of Indiana and their line up front, over under 2 sacks from the front 4 this week.
Just the front 4?
Yeah.
Can I say 2?
Sure, you can push. We're going for the sake of time. You could say push.
I'll say you get. I got an explanation. I'll take
go 3.
Say 1.5. I think a linebacker helps out. It's the other half sack.
Abdul, I'm gonna go under.
Well, Winnie, how can you take 1.5? You're not setting a line. You can't be right. You could say under.
That is my under. I just wanted to give a number. Everyone else did. Kyle could have said over. Well, he said 3.
I said.
Well, 3 is possible. 1.5's not. You could use it when you're setting a line.
I'm going with
1.5 is possible.
It's possible.
Well, yes, I guess technically.
Yeah, so I said share with a linebacker.
Yeah. So I guess if you're going to be very technical with the halves,
just to be funny,
tackles that they give out.
Yeah. See, we got you, Winnie. We back up our tailgate talk friends when they're correct. Notice no one backed up Coco last week in that debate. But all right, Trent, what do you got?
Josh Pate, producer Jesse, Lines 247.
Brent Strange.
None of them actually backed up his point of view. He just is too delusional to realize that fact. But Trent,
he's very good at twisting it to like that Brent Strange.
No.
No.
He's not very good at twisting it. He's very good at trying.
Well, yeah, like that Brenton Strange quote can't go any more down the middle, and Kyle tries to bring that in here like it's gonna sway the argument. It's like, Kyle, you can't split hairs any more evenly than that. Anyways, with that being said, quick one. We've had a lot of these similar types of talks on here that I'm about to get into, but I think now that the path forward is a little more clear. So would you rather us if we finish 10-2, would you rather us make that New Year's 6 game and win it, or make one of them higher tier bowls right outside the New Year's 6 and lose it? Either way, we're going.
Yeah, I think you have that backwards.
I think you have it backwards, Trent.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do have that backwards. But yeah, would you rather us make the New Year's 6?
Maybe I'm not the only dyslexic one this podcast here.
Yeah, lose the New Year's 6 bowl or make a higher tier bowl game, but win it. Either way, we're going 10-2 in the regular season.
I got to go with the New Year's Six Bowl. I mean, just the prestige of being there. It doesn't necessarily impact the rankings too much at the end. Like I'm gonna go with the bigger bowl game.
I'm gonna go with winning the lesser bowl game just because I like the sound of 11-2. I think that sounds a lot better than 10-3.
Do you guys think that we'll have anybody that'll sit out if it's a lesser bowl versus a New Year's 6? Because I was gonna say I'd rather the New Year's 6 if everyone's for the most part, gonna play.
Not on the scale of this year, last year, I don't think, because
Yeah,
we
I
have so many
agree. I
younger
agree with
guys.
that. But
Exactly. We're so much younger.
yeah,
Clifford probably he can't hurt his draft stock,
Yeah.
so we'll need him to sit out.
Drew Alar is probably going to sit out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he could be drafted next week already, number 1.
Yeah, well, like Franklin said, by this point in the year, they're not freshmen anymore. So by Coca's logic, they shouldn't be playing. So
I just can't wait for Drew to
Uh,
start. I just can't wait for it.
yeah,
Oh,
none of
yeah.
us can wait. None of us can wait. It's
I think
just,
we're all excited. That's the comprehension part he struggles with. He acts like we don't like Drew Alar. I love Drew Alar. Like he thinks I'm gonna be like, oh, Drew Alar starts. Like I would be thrilled to see Drew Alar start this weekend.
All I'm confident in with is that Drew Alar can lead this team. Listen, it's my opinion. I think Drew Alar can lead this team to 10-2 with the rest of the schedule we have remaining as our quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
It remains to be seen if the coaches agree with your opinion.
well, we'll find out due time. We are 72 hours, a little less than from kickoff. So be sure to keep following Tailgate Talk for all that action you got coming up. And if by some stretch of the imagination, Drew Alar does see the field first, I'm sure Coca will act like he's right when he literally hasn't disproven any of our other points. So until then, we are Tailgate Talk.